Hello everybody, welcome to week 3, Tuesday, language arts. Remember this week we are working on inferencing, which basically means being a detective, figuring out what clues are in the sentence or the paragraph, and we can use those clues to answer questions. So, here we go. We're gonna look at, I think this is pretty similar to an activity that we did actually in class. It looks very similar. So we're going to read the little paragraph that's in the box and then just answer one question about it. It should be pretty quick and easy. All right, the first one says, Maggie was getting ready to walk to school. She put on her coat and grabbed her backpack. As she was leaving, her mother said, I love you. Be careful. So you can infer that A, Maddie is in kindergarten or first grade. B, Maggie lives close to school. C, Maggie is never late for school. Or D, Maggie is excited about going to school. All right, so let's take a look at A. If we look back in the paragraph, nothing about that lets us know what grade she's in. For all we know, she could be a senior in high school. So, I'm gonna use my black pen and I'm gonna cross out A. It's not the best fit. B, Maggie lives close to school. All right, well, if we look right here, it says Maggie was getting ready to walk to school. So she's walking to school. That must mean she lives pretty close. So I'm not going to cross this one out yet because this could be an answer, but I'm going to check the other two just to make sure. C, Maggie is never late for school. Well, it doesn't mention her, what time it is. It doesn't say whether she's rushing. We have no idea. So that's probably not the correct answer. D says Maggie is excited about going to school. Well, it just says that she's getting ready. She puts on her coat, grabs her bag, and as she's leaving, her mom says, I love you, be careful. It doesn't say, maybe she was grumpy, maybe she was tired, cranky, maybe she was jumping up and down because she was so excited. We don't know because it didn't mention anything about it. Excuse me. So that's probably not the best answer. Okay, so we're left with B. Maggie lives close to school. We can assume that because she was going to walk. So, after all that detective work, we're going to say that B is the correct answer. All right, next one. Hudson hurried out of the house so he wasn't late for work. He wore overalls and carried a toolbox with wrenches in it. He hopped in his truck and drove off. The sign on his truck said, Pipe Masters. Okay, you can infer that A, Hudson is an auto mechanic. That means he works on cars. B, Hudson enjoys his job. C, Hudson works as a plumber. Or D, Hudson is a truck salesman. All right, so let's take a look at the other one, or the first one. Auto mechanic. Okay, let's look and see if it talks anything about cars. He hurried out of the house so he wasn't late for work. He wore overalls and carried a toolbox. It had wrenches in it. He has a truck. And the sign on the truck says Pipe Masters. Not much about that paragraph says that Hudson works on cars. Okay? Yes, there are pipes in cars, but there's more than just pipes. So I don't think that this is the best answer we could choose. Okay, B, Hudson enjoys his job. Well, it doesn't really talk about how he feels about his job. It does mention that he was hurrying out of the house so he wouldn't be late, but that's not really the same as enjoying your job. Probably not our best answer. Okay, Hudson works as a plumber. So he's wearing overalls. Overalls are usually clothes that people wear when they're working on something. He has a toolbox with wrenches. Wrenches are used to tighten or loosen things. He has a truck that probably has supplies in it. And the truck, the sign says Pipe Masters. Well, we know plumbers work on pipes. So this might be our answer, but let's check D just to make sure. Truck salesman. Okay, well, it does mention that he drives a truck. Usually truck salesmen don't wear overalls to work. They wear, nicer clothes, maybe a suit or some nice pants and a shirt and a tie. If you ever go buy a car, they're usually not wearing overalls. So I think that C is our best answer. Sounds like Hudson is a plumber. All right. Nicole came out of the elevator in her apartment building. She ran to the curb and held up her arm to hail a taxi. When she hopped in, she said, "Please take me to 345 45th Street." You can infer that A, Nicole's car is broken. Okay, it didn't mention anything about a car being broken. So, probably not going to do that. B, Nicole is going on vacation. I mean, she might be, but it doesn't talk about her having a suitcase or any luggage. Didn't talk about maybe her packing a bathing suit or some ski clothes. So probably not going on vacation. Okay, Nicole is going shopping. She might be, but there's nothing in the sentence that tells us where she's going. This is probably just a made-up address. It doesn't say, "Please take me to Penn Square Mall," or "Please take me to Old Navy." So we don't know if she's going shopping or not. Okay, Nicole lives in a large city. Well, we've talked about this before. Places that are really, really crowded and really populated, like New York City, Dallas, LA, Chicago. Those places, usually people just use a taxi, or nowadays they might use an Uber or a Lyft. It's cheaper and easier to do that than to own a car. I know in New York City, sometimes you have to pay to have a parking space, and it can be thousands of dollars a year. And honestly, there's so many people, the traffic, I don't know, that would drive me crazy. There's a reason I don't live there. So it sounds like she does live in a large city. Plus, she's in an apartment. A lot of times, like we've talked about in New York City, because it's so crowded, there's not enough room for everybody to have their own house. So they build apartments because they can go high in the sky. That's why they call them high rises. So a lot of people can live in one apartment building instead of a few people living in one house. All right. Everett held his father's hand as he crossed the busy parking lot. They walked into a grocery store. Everett's dad lifted him into the seat of the shopping cart. "Here," said Dad, "you can hold my shopping list." Okay, let's see what we can infer. A, Everett has never been to the grocery store. Well, it doesn't mention that it's his first time, and it doesn't say that Everett's dad says, "Okay, here we go, first trip to Walmart." There's nothing in there like that, so I don't think it's going to be this. B, Everett's dad does not shop often. Well, I don't see anything in the paragraph that makes me believe that. Seems like he knows what he's doing. He's got a list. So it's probably not this. If it were his first time going to the grocery store, he probably wouldn't have a list. Just go in and see what he could get. All right, C, Everett's dad needs help with the shopping. Well, it does mention that Everett held the shopping list, but Everett's dad didn't say, "I need you to." He said, "You can." So, I don't know. Let's look at D and see what D says. Everett is very young. Well, Everett did hold his dad's hand in the parking lot. Everett's dad lifted him up and put him in the seat in the shopping cart. I don't know about you, but I can't fit in that. Not anymore. So I think that C is wrong, and D is our best inference. Seems like Everett's probably maybe a toddler or 4 or 5, small enough to fit in the shopping cart seat, old enough to walk, and old enough to hold the list. All right, on the back page. Avery watched as her new next-door neighbors moved in. She observed a tall man carrying a bicycle and a kayak into the garage. She also saw a young woman carrying a surfboard through the door. All right, Avery can infer that A, her new neighbors are elderly. Well, I think about my grandma. My grandma is 82. I would call that elderly. She is definitely not going to be riding a bicycle or getting in a kayak or surfing on a surfboard. So, my guess is that her neighbors are not elderly. B, her new neighbors have several children. Well, children can ride bicycles. They can also surf and kayak, I guess. But it doesn't mention that they are little toys or children's toys. So let's not cross it out yet. Let's see what C says. Her new neighbors like to spend time outdoors. Well, bicycling, that's an outdoor activity. Kayaking, outdoor activity. And surfing, definitely an outdoor activity. That sounds pretty good to me. C, but let's check D before we make our final decision. D, her new neighbors are kind and generous. Well, it doesn't seem like Avery has interacted with her neighbors yet. Avery's just watching them from maybe the window or the porch or something. So it doesn't talk about them giving her anything. I don't think it's that. All right, so we're back to these two. I really think that C is the best answer because there's no mention of any kind of kid or child size equipment. All right, when Joseph walked into the kitchen, he saw muddy paw prints on the floor. His mother's wet coat was hanging on a chair. Below the coat, he spotted his mother's rubber shoes. Joseph looked for his dog, Riley. He found Riley, who was soaking wet, lying on the couch, panting. All right, Joseph can infer that A, his mom gave Riley a bath. Okay, well, we know that the dog is wet, but it doesn't say the dog is wet from a bath. It sounds like the dog is wet from being outside. Especially since the mom had wet clothes and shoes on. B, Riley played in the yard during a rainstorm. Okay, well, so Riley's the dog. That may have happened. We know that Riley was probably outside at some point. It doesn't mention a rainstorm necessarily. Let's not cross that out yet. C, Riley dragged the coat outside. Well, it says the coat was hanging on a chair, so that probably didn't happen. D, Joseph's mother took Riley, the dog, for a walk in the rain. Okay, well, Joseph's mom, if she went for a walk in the rain, she would have had wet clothes and shoes, and it told us that she did, and also the dog would have been wet. So, that one, not our best answer, so we'll go with D. All signs point to D. Kayla made a steak dinner for her family. Her mom and dad each ate 2 full steaks and had a large helping of mashed potatoes. When the meal was over, everyone's plate was empty. Sounds good to me. Kayla can infer that A, her family enjoyed the meal. Well, if her mom and dad both made a happy plate, then I would say they enjoyed it. But let's check the others first. B, the steak was too well done. You know, it didn't actually talk about how long the steak had been cooked. It could have been rare or medium rare. So probably not that. C, a steak dinner is an easy meal to make. It didn't talk about whether it was easy or hard. So probably not that. D, there will be lots of leftovers. Well, it said when the meal was over, everyone's plate was empty, so no leftovers there. So it was A. Oops. Sorry. Last one. Alexander arrived at his grandmother's house at 10 o'clock at night. He saw her car in the driveway and the front door was open. The window was lit with a blue flickering light. All right, Alexander can infer that A, his grandmother was reading a book. All right, well, we know Grandma's at home because her car is there and the front door is open. Hopefully she's there if the door is open. The window was lit with a blue flickering light. Flickering means like moving, like a candle flickers. Sometimes a light will flicker if it goes on and off, on and off, on and off. Doesn't necessarily sound like good reading, a good reading setup. So I don't think we'll go with that one. B, his grandmother was not home. Well, her car was there. The front door is open. It's 10 o'clock at night. I think we're assuming that she is home. C, his grandmother was watching television. Well, the only clue that might point to that was that the window was lit with a blue flickering light. I know if I fall asleep with the TV on and it's dark when I wake up, it does seem like it's blue from the screen. Let's check D. His grandmother was sleeping. Well, hopefully if she went to bed, she would have closed the front door. So I'm thinking C is probably our best guess. All right, guys, that's it for Tuesday.